There are four basic types of fog, and we're going to go through each one of them in this video. The first type of fog is called radiation fog, or ground fog. What happens here is there's a certain amount of water near the ground, the amount of water dependent on the dew point temperature. At nighttime, the ground radiates energy away. In other words, the ground is going to get cooler and cooler by radiation. As the temperature gets cooler, the saturation vapor pressure drops, and as it drops more and more, relative humidity increases closer and closer to 100% until it's saturated. When that happens, there's nothing left for the air to do but cause some water to condense and form a cloud. And this cloud right there near the ground is your radiation fog. A couple of other names for radiation fog include ground fog or valley fog, because they tend to form most often in valleys where the cold air pools. And this is a very common scene with valley fog or radiation fog. The second type of fog is called advection fog. This is where you have a moist, warm mass of air that gets blown over onto either a mass of cold water or cold ground. So you have a large amount of water being pushed into an area where the saturation vapor pressure is already low. In other words, you're putting more water into the air than what the air has the capacity to hold. Now, when that happens, saturation hits 100% plus some, so the air needs to get rid of some of that water, and so it condenses into the form of fog. This is advection fog. Very, very common scene in the San Francisco Bay Area and many other bays around the coastal areas of the United States. Third type of fog is called upslope fog. This is where you have warm, moist air that is blown towards a mountain range and then pushed up the slope. Then as it goes up the slope, the temperature drops. As the temperature drops, the saturation vapor pressure drops, relative humidity reaches 100%, and it condenses and forms fog. The fourth and final type of fog is evaporation fog. Now, with the other types of fog, what we dealt with was taking a mass of warm, humid air and dropping the temperature. Evaporation fog, instead, would be taking a mass of air and then suddenly increasing the actual vapor pressure. So this one's a little more different and so acts very differently. Couple of good examples of this would be steam fog or your breath in the winter. You go outside on a very cold day, the saturation vapor pressure is really low, you exhale. Then as you exhale, you're putting a lot of water from your lungs into the air, pushing the actual vapor pressure up to the saturation point, and it condenses and forms a cloud. That's why you can see your breath in the winter. Steam fog is also very similar. If you've ever been around any hot springs or geysers, you often see a lot of fog around them on cold days, because cold days, saturation vapor pressure is quite low, but the hot springs are continually adding more water into the air. The interesting thing about evaporation fog is it's very short-lived. If you watch your breath after you breathe in the winter, the fog dissipates very quickly. Around hot springs, you see these wisps of fog that kind of dance around, and as they move out, they thin out and die away. So evaporation fog is very short-lived. Here's a figure from your book showing where advection fog is most common. Well, all types of fog, not just advection fog. We talked about advection fog here in the San Francisco area. Very common right there. But it's also quite common up here near Maine. Here in Florida, we get a lot of advection fog, but we also get a lot of radiation fog. So we get quite a bit of both. Now, right up here in the Colorado area, you have the Rocky Mountains. Perfect area for upslope fog to form. Now, there's this one area here, West Virginia, Virginia, Maryland, Tennessee, Kentucky, that region right there. This is a really interesting spot. You have the Appalachian Mountains, so you get a lot of advection fog. You're close to the coast, excuse me, let me say that again. You're in the mountains, so you get a lot of upslope fog. You're close to the coast, so you get some advection fog. Plus, you get your normal radiation fog at night as well. And so this area tends to get really, really foggy. We have a special name for this area, and it's called the Blue Smoky Mountains. Why? Because there's constantly a lot of fog in this area. Like, it has a very bluish tint. And so that is why that area is often quite foggy, called the Blue Smoky Mountains.